All right, welcome back. It's time now for the interview segments, and like we said earlier, our guest is on standby. And as you also know, that Fridays we bring you topics related to entertainment. So today we shall be talking about fusing education and entertainment. And our guest, Adejoke Akanbi, who is a medical personnel and also a media personnel, is on standby. Education often doesn't come to mind in conjunction with entertainment, but that's exactly what edutainment is. Education with the goal of learning enjoyable, making learning enjoyable. It's nice to have you, Miss Adejoke.
Welcome
The pleasure is
to the
mine.
program.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Nice to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So, can you tell us why we were growing up? We're just in our classrooms. We're just fixed with just having to learn, even if we're not, we didn't really like it. They'll just tell you, just sit down there from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. You are learning. You just have like 30 minutes break or thereabout. Even if we are tired, you understand? Even if we are tired, we don't have a choice. Now, how can education and entertainment be infused and yet still achieve our learning purpose? Because normally our parents will be like, no, you cannot do anything that concerns entertainment. You just have to study, study and nothing else. So how can we infuse that and then still achieve the same purpose?
Firstly, I think the first thing we need to do is to sensitize some of our parents now that you don't have to like force a child to learn every now and then, because one of the very important ways of learning is visual perception, and it involves teaching a child how to learn via pictures, videos, and all sorts. And that is one of the vital ways edutainment can really come to pass, because it would be a lot of boring activity for a child to just continue to learn, just learning figures and letters
Yeah.
without using other means, other measures to learn properly. And one of the ways we can infuse entertainment and in education is by introducing to these children all these materials that will make them understand that learning is not boring. I could remember when I was growing up, because as a science student, yes, I studied medical lab science, but when I was in secondary school, I ensured I was a part of the literature class because I totally enjoyed it. And there was a particular book that was being recommended then. That's Tempest, written by William Shakespeare. And I remember that a lot of persons really had issues understanding the whole storyline. But immediately when the director, that was the proprietor of the school, introduced the cassette, because there's a cassette for it, like the visual representation of this book, and everybody understood it properly. And there are some scenarios that was very difficult for some of these students to break down, but just because this material was infused and introduced, and it was so easy for everybody to understand, so it's
Yeah.
really important.
All right. Now, do you think that we're just talking about children now? Do you think this can cut across even secondary school students, even up to the university? Because sometimes when we just sit down, it's kind of so boring to us. Like, let's just let this man just finish, or let this woman just finish, and let me just carry my bag. Do you think this can cut across to even tertiary education?
Yes, of course. Let me cite instance of, because let me make an instance as regard the medical school. There are some courses in physiology that mere reading textbooks, you might not just understand. But by the time because physiology of the body, for instance, that you can't see in your friend's body. But by the time you introduce materials that would make them understand how the blood and body fluids works and how they connect and how they flow and everything, I think it is very important that they introduce these materials, because it will really foster people's learning, and they'll be able to achieve a lot of things, and a lot of things that you cannot just achieve by reading books and materials and all that. So it's really important we really introduce these materials in secondary and tertiary institutions as well.
Oh, that's very nice. Thank you for answering that. But we're talking about education and entertainment, and we need to realize that to be able to do this, we need technology, right?
Yes.
We need technology, we need to understand it. So how do you think, technology can play a part in this? Because, we're looking at like secondary school people now, some people that they don't have access, to this technological device. So like, how do you think they can go about, that?
Okay. Firstly, let me start with the children first. There are different types of entertainment. Firstly, is now you talked about technology and the use of visual games, video games, for instance. I know not every child will be able to access this, but if schools and facilities can just try as much as possible to make these things available for these children, then it will be easier for them to learn. Because I see no reason why you would want to. I see no reason why you would not want to introduce materials that will make a child understand the dynamics of some topics in school. So if every child is not able to access these materials, it is very important that these schools try as much as possible. And this is where the government comes in as well. In government schools, they should make it available for these children to learn. And in secondary school as well, learning via helping your education, your academic life via entertainment does not mean you have just the media alone. There are other things that there are other type of entertainment that can help a child to learn, and a part of the entertainment is the live performances. That's drama, dances, and all that can help these children to learn better. And aside from learning directly, they can always children get burnt out, not only adults. And one of the ways that they can pass through that phase is when they relax their nerves for a while, and this is infusing entertainment as well. And it does not necessarily mean this child needs to use technology. Yeah, there are other type of entertainment that you don't really need to use technologies and all that.
All right, now I want us to emphasize more on the types of games, the type of entertainment that can cut across all levels, taken from pre-nursery classes, primary classes, and all of that. Can you just give us some of these examples for us to also know about, and even for other people out there?
Okay. Firstly, the very important type of entertainment that a child needs to be introduced to while they are growing up is the toys. Toys that don't need electricity to function. Just you can get this what's this called? There's a certain toy that you can stack woods and all that, and this will really help these children to learn numbering from childhood. Then as they grow older, there are other type of entertainment that can be introduced to them. That's the artwork. Yes, they can be introduced to artworks and other types of entertainment that don't necessarily need electricity and technology, because I tend to understand that not everybody have access to these things.
All right, so do you think that schools out there right now will be willing to accept this new method? Yes, we have some, we know that there are some that are already using this method, but very few of them, very few. Now, do you think other schools will want to accept this new method being infused in the curriculum?
I see no reason why a school owner or an educationalist should avoid using these means, because to start with, my mom is a teacher. She owns a school. She owns a nursery and primary school. And at a point, I taught in that school for a while, and we tend to realize that these children, sometimes you need to show them things for them to understand, and it will really help you as a teacher, and it will help these children to learn better. So it is very important that I see no reason why anybody should protest against that, because it will really help your work as a teacher. And by the time you realize that you introduce these things to them, you realize that they tend to understand it better than just explaining with your mouth and stressing yourself all through. So yes.
Yeah, you said you feel no reason why anybody should not want to accept, but the truth is that out there we have some teachers who just want to do just let me do this work, and let me just close for the day. Yeah, you understand? Just want to rush up their work and just leave. And also we have some public schools teachers too, who they don't really have the necessary items, equipment to
Tools,
use.
yes.
You know, unlike private schools, private school owners will try as much as possible to get all they need, even if it is for them to increase the school fees and all of that. But for public schools, where we don't really have the needed items to use, and even where we have so many children, pupils rather, in one class, do you think this can be achievable?
Okay, firstly, you spoke about teachers with passions, teachers that just want to teach and just close for the day. Now, this is where professionalism and passion comes in, because as a teacher, you are very important in the life of the child you are impacting knowledge into. Because whatever thing you impact into the child as a young person determines, in most cases, determines what comes out of these children. So before you even take up the job of being a teacher, teaching is not just that profession. You really need to be passionate about the children you want to impact knowledge into. Then secondly, when it comes to schools not being able to get these materials, then if public schools, for instance, cannot get these materials, then they can encourage the children to bring in these materials, or just encourage these parents to provide for the pupils, so that because it will really help you as a teacher, because you tend to understand that these pupils, firstly, they won't find learning boring, they won't find schooling boring, and they would understand what they are being taught easily. And these are the importance is just more. So government as well should provide, I don't know, but government as well should provide these materials for these children to learn better.
All right. Talking about teachers and educators in general, what strategies do you think that they can employ to measure the success of fusing education and, entertainment together? Because, some, as she said, people in private school that are willing, to try these ideas, but maybe the parent might not be willing, or probably the school owner might not be willing, because it might bring about maybe more cost or expenses. So how can they, what can they use to show, what can they use to show to measure that, oh, this thing works, let us, implement it. Yes, let's continue it.
Okay, topics like this can be discussed during the Parents Teachers Association meetings, that's the PTA meetings. And I know every parent wants their children to be better. Every parent wants their children to be successful in their academic life and in all ramifications. So a good parent that is being told about things that can help the children to learn better would always find means to ensure that these children enjoy learning, and the learning process will not be tedious for them. I know some parents might not be able to afford these materials, but there are local means that there are ways you can diversify and get these materials ready for your children. Firstly, you can get them, I mentioned toys the other time that would help children for numbering. You can get them bottles that they can stack together, that can be numbered. And when these children are introduced to these materials, I know it's not, these methods might not be financially consuming, but of course there are accessible things that you can always get. And talk about artworks, you can even do the paintings for them, because how do you want to demonstrate to a child that a goat works a certain way when these children have not even seen goats before? I know of a certain community that they don't allow goats in that area because of their plantations and everything. Now, how do you want to tell children in that area that a goat looks a certain way if you don't tend to make artwork yourself or draw them? So it is important that they get to know these things.
All right, now, thank you. We're talking about artwork, numbers and all of that. Now, do you think there are specific subjects that fusing education and entertainment has been successful? Because do you really think that it cuts across all subjects? Because we have several subjects. Is it the primary school subjects you want to talk about? Is it the secondary school subjects you want to talk about? We have so many of them. Do you think this can work in every subject?
Yes, I do think this can work in all subjects and in every other perspective aside from education, because like I mentioned earlier, one of the very core ways of learning is via visual perception. Now, if you want to explain to a child that has never experienced what extended family looks like, if you want to explain to this child in social studies That's a certain subject in primary basic education. If you want to explain to this child that there's a type of family called the extended family, you show them pictures. For instance, now let's take it back to the secondary school. If you want to explain to a child that, these days, these schools don't tend to like provide every material for the students, so you really need to look for a way to diversify. If you want to explain to a science student, for instance, that if you do this, if you mix this chemical together with this will happen, this reaction will happen. Let's assume this school does not have these chemicals, for instance. You show them videos. That's learning via entertainment as well. Now let's go to the art class. And if you want to, like I mentioned the earlier time, my experience in secondary school, everybody tends to like not understand what Shakespeare really meant in The Tempest. That's his book. But when every one of us saw the video, we understood everything, and it was a easy breakdown for everybody to understand. Now let's take it back to the commercial students. In all ramifications like that, there are ways that this visual representation can help children learn faster. And back to the tertiary institutions, like I told you, there are some courses that I learned in physiology via videos. The lecturers taught me, but then I had to like look for materials, entertaining materials that would help me learn more about this topic. So it can work for everybody, regardless of their age group.
Okay. Now, agree that it can work for every subject, regardless. But I'm very sure that during this process and doing all of this, there are going to be challenges that the teachers will face. Now, what do you think these challenges can be, and how can they be resolved?
The major challenge is unavailability of these materials, firstly. Now, like we mentioned earlier, there are some private schools might go extra mile to ensure that these things are provided. And the public schools, when it comes to government matters, truthfully, nobody cares. But this is where the government should just come in and focus and ensure that these children learn more via materials as well. Not every child. See, if children are being permitted, they don't want to learn via books. So you need to look for a way that would make learning very fun and entertaining for them. And that's where this infusion of edutainment comes in. And parents as well should help their teachers. Yes, parents should help their teachers as well. You don't need to leave everything into the hands of the school and the teachers. You provide materials that you think would help your children to improve. And I'm very sure there are recommended materials by schools as well. I know schools that would recommend materials so that these children can learn better. So these are the ways these problems can be solved.
All right, thank you. So now, do you think there, because whatever we have to do, we have to also have it at the back of our mind that ethics is very, very important, even if we are trying to teach the students some things. Now, do you think there are any ethical considerations to keep in mind when blending, when fusing entertainment and education?
Yes, of course. And most importantly, it is to filter these materials you are giving out to these children. Because if you hand over a phone, for instance, that contains videos and pictorial content that you can show to a child, you ensure that these materials do not contain things that would harm the children's mental health. Firstly, yes, you ensure that whatever material you are prescribing or recommending to your pupils or your students are things that are in accordance to what they are being taught. And of course that this material tallies with the age range of these children and the age group or whatever, so that you don't recommend things that are not meant for them to learn about. So yes, those are one of the measures that can be taken.
Yeah. All right, thank you. So what do you have to say to teachers, educators out there, parents, governments, considering fusing education and entertainment? What do they have to consider?
Firstly, to the parents, work in accordance with your teachers. If the teachers of your pupil, of your children, recommend materials for you to provide for them, ensure that these materials are being provided, because it's for the benefit of your children, and that's first. Then to the teachers as well, it is your job, it is your duty to ensure that these children are properly taught. And one of the ways they can be taught are via these materials that we mentioned earlier. So and to the school owners, government officials, and all sorts, school owners, I know they are doing a lot to ensure that these children learn and they can always do better. And to governments as well, they should always provide, because I realized that the public schools are at the receiving end of most of these lacks and wants. So they should ensure and provide materials that can foster the knowledge of these children, not just books and pens and all sorts, but materials that can help them understand what they are being taught.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Adejoke Akanbi. It was nice having you on the show.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I've learned that it is very important for us to infuse education and entertainment into the curriculum, so that whatever the kids are learning, whatever the students are learning, at least it shouldn't be boring.
Yes, and what they see, they tend to remember more.
Yes. All right, that's all we have for you on the interview segment for today. We hope you've also learned one or two things to infuse in your child's education. So we go on a short break now, and when we come back, Daybreak Africa continues. Please stay with us.